Well, let's talk about reading, setting, and removing HTML attributes. Interestingly enough, jQuery provides a method to do that. Surprise! It's the .attr method, and it lets you read a specified HTML attribute from a tag. It's very common to want to read a source attribute for an image. So if we want to do that, I'm going to read from right to left on this example. We're using source, src, as a parameter for the attribute method, reading right to left. And we're going to be selecting the image that's a descendant of the banner ID, and we're going to throw all this into a variable called image file. So again, going right to left, we're using a source attribute in the attribute method of an image that's a descendant of an ID of banner, and throwing it all in a variable called image file. Now what it returns is exactly what's in the HTML, and it's going to find the first image tag. It's going to return exactly what's in the source code. It could be a relative URL like images/banner.ping, or it might be an absolute URL like http://www, etc. It just depends on what's in your source code. And if you recall, a relative URL or relative path name is usually internal to a website, and usually an absolute path name is external to your website, but the absolute URL points to a specific website exactly. Now, if you pass the second argument to the attribute function, you can set the tag's attribute. For example, if you want to swap out a different image on an element, you just pass in the new property. So here we have the new property on the right hand side and the source, I should say the new value on the right hand side, and the property on the left of the attribute method. So notice we got .attr and then parentheses, source on the left, or the attribute you're going for, a comma, and the new value on the right hand side. If you can change and add attributes, of course you can remove them. So we have a remove attribute method. Notice the A is capitalized. Watch your capitalization because JavaScript is case sensitive. And in this example, we're taking the background color attribute and we're removing it from the body tag. A lot of times we want to take advantage of the automatic looping in jQuery and act on each element in a selection. So as you recall, jQuery automatically loops through all the elements in a selection. Don't have to write the for loop. In this example, we're taking all the images and fading them out. Fade out is a method for jQuery, and the selector there for jQuery is just images. All the images on a page, fade them out. Another example might be you want to retrieve all the links that point outside your site, get the href attribute of each link, and then add that URL to a list of links in, say, a bibliography box on your page. And for that, we use the each method, because there are plenty of times when you want to do some custom code and loop through a selection of elements and perform that series of actions or that series of code on each element. And each lets you do that. One way of collecting your code and organizing it in this each method is with an anonymous function. An anonymous function is just a function with no name. It collects all the steps you wish to perform on the each method and puts them all together. It's called anonymous because, unlike functions you've learned to create before, you don't give it a name. Here's an anonymous function's basic structure, same as every function you've created so far, except there is no name. Now, you use an anonymous function as an argument to pass to another function. Ooh, that's a little strange and confusing, but it's true. Here's how you do that. See, we've got this selection, jQuery selection. You know how to do that on the left-hand side. You've got .each as a method, And inside, as a parameter of the .each method, you've got this anonymous function that's collecting several pieces of code together that's going to run as it steps through and loops through all the results of that jQuery selection. It's a bit to take in, so just take your time on this one. Here's another graphic representation. It's figure 4.6 in our supplementary text. And it says, hey, we got a selector. Notice the selector there in gray. We've got a .each method. The .each method has a start and an end, which is a parentheses. Notice this whole statement. There's a semicolon at the end of the statement. So we have .each, open and close parentheses. We have this anonymous function that has a beginning and an end, and it's got curly braces at the beginning and the end. So punctuation becomes really important. It's very easy to leave things out. I always encourage you to open and close parentheses and open and close curly braces as you go so you don't forget one of these. If you recall, right at the beginning of one of the videos we talked about jQuery replacing window.load with its own better method of loading, and it was a document.ready. And document.ready uses anonymous functions. So here we have document.ready and anonymous function. Wow. It begins to make a little bit more sense, maybe. The anonymous function, again, is just a collection. It's a way of collecting a bunch of code to run. So document.ready is documents your selection. .ready is the method. And inside the ready method, the anonymous function is the parameter. Ooh, does that make sense? Maybe think about it a little bit. Now, of course, you can use a shortcut if you want to. This is so commonly done. It's done in every document. Use jQuery, basically, that there's a shortcut. And feel free to use it. Don't have to. It might make more sense not to use it for a while. Last little thing. If you remember the keyword this, we're going to use it. And jQuery can use this keyword, but typically to access the current element through each loop. Now, this keyword refers to whatever element is calling the anonymous function. Let that settle in a little bit. So the first time through the loop, it refers to the first element in the jQuery selection, while the second time through the loop, it refers to the second element. Yikes. The way jQuery works, the keyword this, refers to a traditional DOM element. So you can access traditional DOM properties. But if you've read the chapter in the supplemental text, chapter 4, the special jQuery selection lets you tap into all the wonderful stuff that jQuery does. And to convert the this keyword to its jQuery equivalent, you would just surround the this keyword with the $, which is the symbol for jQuery, in parentheses. And that's it for this week.